Hi guys, welcome back to the Nevermind Polly Podcast. What is good? What is going on? My name is Matt, I'm your host, and we chat to rock and metal bands from around the world. And in this week's episode, we chat to AJ and Matt of the band Dangerous Summer. And what a fantastic chat this was. AJ and Matt of the Dangerous Summer, two of my favourite guests I've had on the podcast in recent times. Both absolutely wonderful, generous human beings with their stories, with their time. We had a great chat. I had a really great time. It was really lovely to have this conversation. We recorded this a couple of weeks back, and it's obviously coming out today. As you're listening to this on the Friday, the 26th of August, which coincides with their new record, which is called Coming Home, which is out now. So I highly recommend everybody goes and check this album out once you're done listening to this podcast. The podcast itself is around 45 minutes, and if you're watching this on YouTube, hello, you'll get to see my face very shortly because I do the intro after obviously the podcast and stuff. But it was a fantastic chat, and I really was really pleased with how it turned out listening back to it. And that sounds kind of egotistical, and it's not meant to, because I hate the sound of my own voice. So I thought, let's do a podcast. So with that in mind, I obviously have to edit things, and I don't really edit too much. I just look at the levels and stuff. And I listened back to this podcast. I haven't listened to it since it's recorded a couple of weeks back, and I was genuinely thrilled how this turned out. So anyway, this is my conversation with AJ and Matt of the Dangerous Summer on the Nevermind Polly Podcast. Thank you so much. Play the tape. See you in a bit. Hi guys, welcome back to the Nevermind Polly Podcast. This is episode, I don't know what episode we're on, 130 something, because this is going out a little bit later than being recorded. So I hope everyone is good. My name is Matt, I'm your host, and we chat to rock and metal bands from around the world. And this week we are chatting, we're going to America first and foremost. We're going to two different locations in America, but we're chatting to the Dangerous Summer. How are you, gents? How are we both?
Yeah, doing great, man. Yeah, I'm in Richmond, Virginia. Matt's out in Denver. And yeah, we're ripping, baby. It feels good to be alive.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely fine. As we were just discussing a second ago, your lovely PR people sent me the record a few weeks early, and I listened to, and I'm not exaggerating, probably about 30 seconds to a minute of the opening track, and I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'm just fully in. And it was one of those things. I'm in a position in this podcast where I can sort of not pick and choose because I don't get offered that much as such. But at the same time, if I do get offered it, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take it because these guys are fantastic. So it's one of these things. Where have you been my whole life, basically?
Yeah, thank you, man. Hey, that means the most to us, man. It's like, yeah, and we've been doing it for forever. And that's the things, we're like from like a little niche side of the world, like, you know, kind of almost like the Warped Tour scene, like kind of pop punk, emo. We kind of floated in that world, and man, we just love making, like just big rock sounding stuff. You know, we love like Kings of Leon and stuff. Like that's in our mind when we're making our music. So yeah, especially, man, Coming Home, that was like, boom. We just want to be loud. We want to be out there, you know.
Absolutely. And as I say, you've been doing it for a long time. So the first record, and again, correct me if I'm wrong on my dates and things, is around 2000, so mid 2000s, so 2007, 2008, 2009, that kind of time. Yeah. Am I roughly in the ballpark?
Yeah. And actually, so like, I'm from Maryland, and our local band was All Time Low. So we kind of, met them early on, and, we started this band our senior year of high school, like in August. And by March, All Time Low had heard us, and they got us signed to Hopeless Records, the same label they were on. And so we kind of got thrown into this big world of, like pop punk and emo and stuff. And like, so that summer we did some Warped Tour and whatnot. And so, yeah, it was just kind of like, man, back then the scene was so strong, and we were kind of born into it really early. And even in that time, we broke up a few times. I mean, it's like, we've been a band for 16 years, but with these holes in the middle where, it all didn't work out and whatnot. So that we're kind of on like a 4-year span of coming back strong as a band. We've just been releasing these records every year, a year and a half, and we're just having fun, man. We're living it up. We love it so much.
Absolutely. And as well, like life is not linear in any shape or form. So to have it to be in a band is something completely alien to most people. So it's really cool. The album title "Coming Home" struck me first and foremost because, as you say, it's quite a statement, if that makes sense, a statement of intent. I feel like, and again, listen to the songs, it feels like that as well. So I want to kind of go back to kind of you guys growing up, because obviously, like you say, you kind of were in the senior year together and things like that, and that's how you kind of all started. What kind of developed into music? How did you get into music as such? What sort of made you want to be in a band, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think, man, the magic of learning an instrument. I mean, yeah, especially for me, I don't know if it's middle school, something like that. It's like when you learn that first like Green Day song, and when you realize that you can play what's on the radio, these people that you worship, these songs that you worship, it's like there's a spark that happens. You kind of start losing your mind. You start obsessing over it. And Matt, clearly, I mean, all of us have the same story. You sit in your room and you just play music. And you come home from school, it's all you want to do. You just obsess over it. And I think we all have that similar story. And then we all just started realizing, hey, well, why don't we make our own music? That's always like the natural progression. And in high school, you get in these like tiny little bands and you try to like start playing shows, and then that itch starts getting bigger. You're like, wow, like I can play for people. And it's just that growing of like, oh fuck, like this is something that really, really excites me. And it was cool because Matt was in this band called The Graduate, a band that we all listened to, and he actually came into the band a little later. And it was like he was like an influence to us. I mean, like we were listening to his records and stuff, and it was such a natural fit for him to come in the band and join up with us.
Amazing. So Matt, I kind of ask, how did you find coming into the brand, into the project, so to speak?
Yeah, sorry if you hear a bunch of commotion upstairs. So we got a 3-year-old out there, so he's going.
Okay. I've got my parents here doing some work on my flat, so I'm not really. So if you see a cameo of my dad walking in, that's him. So
that's awesome.
I like it.
Yeah, sorry. It was super natural actually. It was like very, very like comfortable and easy. Like basically Brian, their old guitar player, Brian Zapp, he wrote a lot of similar parts of something that I would either play in that same style or like something I would even like think to write. We have very similar kind of taste, and like lead lines very simple yet kind of like soaring kind of notes and a lot of like delay and reverb. And so that made it super easy. And plus the guys were great. Like our last tour with The Graduate was with The Dangerous Summer. That's how I really got to know the guys. And I was hanging out with them every night. My band was kind of on the outs, and I was like, I love these dudes. They're awesome. They like party, and they're just a lot of fun. And like, so it's simple. Yeah, it made it super simple. And like once I started writing with AJ too, it's like he's like the favorite lyricist I've ever written with. Like I feel like anything that I like write and feel like that's it on my side, then he makes something that like takes it to a whole nother level. So it's it's really cool. It just feels very natural. So
absolutely, and that's the thing. I'm not going to kind of ask you guys to divulge what songs mean and things like that, because I don't think that's appropriate. But what I will say is I was listening to the record a few times over, obviously when I first got it, and since then. Big Green Eyes is a particular song that stands out to me personally. Just personal tidbit, my other half, it lives long distance. And I say long distance, for you guys as Americans, long distance is like 12, 13 hours drive. She's like 4.5 for me in the UK. And I was just listening to it, and it just struck a chord with me. And I was just like, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I felt like the little bits in my eyes, and I was like, oh, this is and that was the song that really connects me. I mean, Coming Home, one of the singles, is such a, it's just to me like an instant classic, in the sense of this could hang with Jimmy Eat World, this could hang with the Kings of Leon you've already mentioned, and bands like that, because it's just like, okay, like by the second time the chorus comes round, there it is. It makes sense. It's in your head, and it's an absolute anthemic tune. How do you go about kind of writing anthemic tunes? I know that sounds like such a big question, but it's a real talent.
Yeah, thank you so much. And man, like coming home, it was like magic when it started coming out. And it's just, I mean, Matt with the soaring guitar lines, I mean, it just felt strong when we started making it, and it just had this boominess to this bigness to it. And yeah, it's just, I think it was like a real moment. We actually like started that song like 2 years ago. It was supposed to be on the album we were making back then. I actually couldn't figure it out lyrically or anything. You know, like I kept coming back to it, and everyone we showed it to was like, you need to like finish that song. That's a fucking cool song. And really, it's like, man, Matt's parts on those, they were just like so big, and they almost sing themselves. Like the chorus almost becomes that, you know, and he's ripping through it. So yeah, it was magic. And that's what's crazy, you know, like especially coming into this album, people always tell you what they want to hear. They're like, you should write more songs like this. Like, I like this song you guys did. And the problem with that, it's like, as a musician, you don't know what's going to come out. Like, I think the best musicians over time, you start to learn your openness to whatever the universe is going to send you is what makes it beautiful. It's like, you know, if you go out to try to achieve anything, you're going to miss the point. You're going to miss what the universe is trying to tell you and what they're trying to get you to say. Because it really is, man. It comes from another place. It comes from something. It's like, you know, I always tell you, it's not me and it's not us. It's like, we're just really great antennas. And we've been doing it for so long. We're better at being an antenna. We're better at being present and being ready for it to come to us, you know? So yeah, it's just like when that happened and me and Matt were staying up late, just writing songs. We wrote like 3 or 4 song ideas, like not full completed, but in like a whole, like, I don't know, 10-12 hour span. We were just nailing them out. We were in tune with whatever was happening. And it was just a magical moment. So yeah, you can't really plan it, you know? And yeah, I appreciate Big Green Eyes, man. That was like my heart wrencher. And it's actually, man, like my daughter, she lives 5 hours away from me, and I wrote about her, and just it's like that's a piece of my heart, the pain that I feel, you know, when she's away, and how much I just love her to death. You know, do anything for her. So it was that's my heart, man. I poured my whole soul into that one. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and shout out to our other guitar player, Josh Withenshaw. He had the kind of acoustic like idea for that. You can even hear him like in the demo, like cracking the beer, sitting down at the end of the night, and he starts jamming these chords. It's I don't know. It's just like really, really like the lyrics and the guitar part match perfectly. That's why we really didn't want to mess with it much. There's very minimal stuff behind it. Yeah, it's one perfect song, just like a storyteller song. So I really like it.
Yeah, it's nice to have an acoustic song. Like we've never really had too many acoustic songs, and we're like, let's do that. You know, sometimes it's like luckily we're working with kind of a newer drummer, but our old drummer is like, he didn't want to have songs that didn't have drums. I mean, you know, like at some point the drummer starts to say to you like, well, I want to play on it, you know, and you're like, oh, but what about like that moment in an acoustic song where it's empty? I mean, it's its own thing. It's its own special thing. And I think to have that moment on the album, and I really want to bring it to the live show too, where, hey, let's take it down a notch and let's feel something really quiet and soft and gentle for a second, and really dive into that mood. It's its own feeling, it's its own mood, you know.
Absolutely. And that's the thing as well. I think it sounds, you know, authentic, and because, you know, I think there's could be a cynicism to certain aspects of a record. So you have, like, I don't know, if it's a 10-track record, for example, you have your 2 absolutely singles at the beginning, your floor fillers, then you have something a little bit left of center, left of center, and then you have your emotional ballad. For me personally, as a listener, that was not the case. It was like it just fitted perfectly, and it, like I say, it caught me like a left hook, completely out of off guard almost, and it was just like, oh, okay. Because that's the thing, I like to listen to music and sort of do other things, which some people is like, that's sacrilege. You can't not do. You know, we're all busy, so like I'm just pottering around the flat and pottering around the house and things, and then that song comes on, I'm just like, oh, hang on a minute. And it's like, I had to sort of take a seat and sit down and go, no, this deserves my time and attention. Because that's the thing, coming home and the other singles are kind of like, I can be dancing around like Freddie Mercury with a vacuum cleaner. You know what I mean? That one really kind of hit me and took me off guard. I want to kind of ask, what's it like in the live environment for you guys? Because obviously this conversation's been 10 minutes or so, and you already feel like energetic, fun kind of guys off stage. So I can't imagine what it's like on stage. So I've never seen you guys, but what's the deal with that? How are you guys on stage and on tour and things?
Oh man, we love tours, and we've been doing it for so long where it's like we party, we appreciate the tour. Like it's like it's funny. It's like, yeah, you do this for so long, and like earlier in the days, like, you know, you get kind of tired of touring for so long and whatnot. And when we broke up for like 4 years, when we came back, we were like, man, we miss it so much. We miss like hanging out with people and whatnot. So man, it's like nonstop party. We get to town and we have some drinks. We get on stage, we do our thing, and we rock out on stage. We have a good time and big sing along. Our audiences, man, we are the best fans, and they sing along, you know, from their hearts, man. They're screaming along with us, and then we party afterwards. Like, yeah, we're the lively crew, man, and we're so happy and so blessed that we're just excited. We're just like, damn, like this is everything to us. So we have a good fucking time, man. And yeah, we're coming out to the UK. So hey, if you're around, come out. We'll have a brew or two. You know.
You know what I normally save this part to the end of the podcast, but I will say it here that obviously you guys come to the UK. I'm in the UK. I will come to a show. I will buy you all beers for doing this podcast. So that's like my token to you guys for your time for doing it, essentially, because you don't have to, like I say. But yeah, Matt, any further sort of comments, things you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, like stage presence wise, like we move around a lot. I don't know, like I feel like the people that are coming to the shows really love AJ's lyrics and the energy of the music, so they're singing their ass off. I love it in the UK because you guys not only sing, throw your arms around each other and stuff. There's like a big camaraderie that's really cool. And we do a thing called a drinkers club. Like before, that's like our like meet and greet. Instead of doing like a normal meet and greet where we just step and repeat, you sign, you take a picture. Like we limit it to like 8 or 10 people. We actually have them on the bus with us because we love the people that come to our shows, and like we actually have a drink with them. We share stories. They tell us about their favorite lyrics or their favorite like moment where they discovered the band. And so that's really sick. Like I feel like there's like a really good like community that we feed off their energy, they feed off ours. So yeah, the shows are usually pretty kind of electric. There's a lot of shit going on. So
I love that. Go on, AG. Sorry.
Oh no, that was awesome. And Matt whips his hair. Matt's got that beautiful hair. He's like,
I had bang a lot. I'm not gonna lie. We always say we're lucky to do this because like I'm 37. Like we've been doing it forever, but like we've all been doing it since we were like 18 and 21. But I hurt my back even just this last weekend in Michigan. I've been walking around kicking my neck and like,
getting old.
Starting to get
yeah.
So I've got as I record this, I've got 2 music festivals back to back this weekend and next weekend. And I'm going to have an amazing time. I'm glitching onto my not 30 yet, nearly 30. I'm 29 and I'm glitching onto my 20s. And it's like, oh God, the beers and everything, the bands are going to be amazing. But at the same time, I'm just dreading the Monday morning when I'm back to work and then have to do it all again next weekend.
Yeah. So wait, what are the festivals? Who's playing? Who are you seeing this weekend?
So I'm going to Bloodstock Festival, which is a festival in the UK. So headlined by Behemoth, Lamb of God, and Merciful Fate.
Shit. Yeah.
So heavy. And then I've got Arc Tangent, which is like a post-metal festival near Bristol. That's headlined by Cult of Luna, Opeth, and Tesla. So more of a post-metal kind of thing, which I feel like might be a little bit more of a subdued affair. I say that now before I've gone and I've had way too many beers and everything else. But they're both those I'm officially working at, so I have to kind of, stick within a parameters, I think.
Yeah. So you're gonna interview bands there and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah, cool. Exactly. So that's gonna be super fun to hang out and whatnot. So, so I kind of wanted to ask as well. Obviously, you guys spoke about your fans just then and how incredible they are. How important is it to get back into the live environment and touring? Because obviously, I don't want to touch on COVID too much because COVID is such a boring thing. That's so like everybody's over it. But at the same time, it's a global thing that everyone's kind of been through. So how important is it to you guys to get out there and see the fans basically and play the music that you love making? And obviously creating the music in a pandemic. How was that kind of for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, touring's everything, man. It's like we have so much fun out there. And yeah, man, like making music in the pandemic, it was just completely different. Especially like we had an EP that came out like right towards the beginning of COVID, and we wrote it during COVID, and it was almost impossible to make. You know, Matt was flying, or yeah, he was flying when no one was flying really to come here and do it. Everything felt weird, everything felt strange. You know, we lost our drummer there. He couldn't fly. And yeah, he went to his girlfriend instead of the studio. And we're like, oh fuck, you know. So it really shook up the world. It shook the snow globe of our band, but you know, like we still had a good time. We released a cool EP, and then we were just like, man, as soon as it's done, we need to get out there. And it was hard to tour at first. I mean, our booking agents are saying, hey, you know, like all the tours that were booked are going to be booked as soon as everyone's allowed to gig. So we couldn't even really get shows. They're like, oh, we got to wait. And we luckily got on this Secondhand Serenade tour in November, which was like super early in touring still. Like people were still not quite coming out shows. They're kind of getting used to it and whatnot. And we were lucky to get that kind of support tour. And even this UK tour, I mean, this was supposed to be in January. They pushed it all the way to the fall because it was still the international thing. It was like, they're like, yeah, you could try to go, but these bands are having issues right now getting into this country and this country. So we're like, let's just push it. Let's wait till everything's, you know, kind of normal again. And man, as soon as we could tour, we were just like hounding our agents. We're still hounding our agents. Like, you want to go to more countries, we want to keep going because, yeah, you lose 2 years of like what would normally be. And it's funny because right before this, you know, in 2019 December, like 3 months before the world shut down, we had just done, you know, Japan, Taiwan, Australia. Like we basically finished a world tour, and we finished 2 years of heavy touring. And we were like, we're going to go home and relax finally. And we go home and relax. And 3 months later, they shut the world down. We're like, fuck, like, when are we going to tour again? You know, like, we were excited to be home. And then it's like 2 years later, you know, so it's kind of that nightmare that came out of nowhere. So, man, we just want to get back out there. And especially, man, our UK fans, we love them so much. And it was the one thing that felt so far away. Like, that was the last thing to open is the borders. I mean, you know, all these countries, like they shut down the borders. They're like, fuck everyone else. You know, that was a weird thing about COVID too, where it's like all the countries are like, fuck people from other countries. Like we got to take care of ourselves, you know? So it's going to end now. Like, man, it's going to be even weirder. Brexit happened during that time, or like Brexit is official now during that time. So it's like, we're going to come back to touring and we're going to have a hard time getting into Europe from the UK, and like, you know, it's like, oh my god, like, so it's gonna be interesting, but man, touring's everything, and we're excited to get back out there.
You know what? I just want to quickly say it's really appreciated as UK and sort of European. I'm going to speak for half of Europe as well, for American bands to come over, and obviously other bands from like Australia and things like that as well. Because like when you look at the size of America, you don't have to. If you did, obviously, you know, you all want to be successful and whatever else, but at the same time, you don't have to come over because you could just, if you wanted to, just tour the States, and that would be enough because the States is so big. So it's genuinely appreciated that you guys do make, and bands make the effort, you know, to come over with everything that is going on. And I apologize about Brexit. I'm going to talk on behalf of everybody else. I apologize about that shit show that's still. It's
and I bet it must be kind of sad to be like you guys, like, man, you used to be able to just vacation over there, run over there, do whatever you want, but now it's separate. I mean, that must be like an interesting little, you know, wrench thrown in there, you know.
Yeah, it's got to be strange, like, because like now we even have to like have separate merch for like UK and separate merch for Europe, and like getting into France is going to be weird. Like, it's messed up a few things. We're hoping it all goes smooth, but yeah, it's just like,
Yeah, I
So
know. Like state champs got stuck at the French border. Like you hear about these bands getting stuck between the UK and there, and hopefully it runs smooth. Hopefully.
Yeah,
we'll
I
see.
mean, I'm sure that it will work itself out. The power of rock and roll will work it out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to touch on the fact that you guys are, like you by your own admission, I guess, a really like live wire live band. Do you guys have anything that's sort of like before your show that you kind of do to get yourself in that mental headspace? Because I've asked a few bands this, and they've said to me that, we do like a shot of Red Bull before stage. We will put our hands in the middle and go like, "Woo!" Is there anything that you guys do to like come together and get get hyped, I guess, for the show?
We drink.
Yeah, we drink. Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
proper rock and roll band.
Yeah, and we're that band. Like we like to have our friends out, and we like to fill the green room with people, and like really create an atmosphere. It's like like especially since we've been doing this so long, it's like these venues are like our home. So it's like when we get to each city, it's like we have all of our friends out that we know from the city, and like we try to give everyone unlimited beer in the green room. Like we try to create the party atmosphere before we go on. So it's like we're just hanging out, and then it's like it's time to go. Like we want to be loose, we want to be ready, we want to feel lively. It's like it's funny. You go to hang out with some of these bands, and it's like they're playing video games in the back, and they're dead silent until they go on. It's like we're the type of people where like, okay, doors just happened. What are we doing? We need to be ready. We need to be going. Like I don't want to be sitting down even. I just want to be like up and feeling good. I don't want to. Touring is like so grueling where if you sit down and let it consume you, it'll consume you. So it's like just try to get up, keep moving, and have our friends around. We just love seeing everyone that we're friends with, and party, shots, a little bit of Jim Beam, a little bit of nice. Beer, White Claw, cider, whatever. Yeah, we're there for it.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely love White Claw. It didn't come UK for the longest time, but my fridge is basically, I'm like, like I said, I'm nearly 30, but I'm living a 21-year-old's life. I've got literally a fridge of cheese, White Claw, and milk for a cup of tea occasionally. That's about it. Like,
that's awesome.
I'm glad you guys finally got it, because it really is like, man, especially like you feel a little bit better. Like beer is a little heavy. It's like White Claw is clean. It's like it has less calories than a lot of that beer, and so it's like it's like you're drinking water. Yeah, it's kind of healthy,
It's one of those drinks that's suspiciously dangerous in the sense that you can drink 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 of them, and then you're like, oh, I've just had them, and and then it hits you, and like, oh, I don't feel like heavy drunk like you would on beer, but I feel a bit, I don't know.
Nice. Like a wine.
I'm glad to know that you guys have them now. That's fucking badass.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's almost like a home from home for you guys.
Do you guys have like a brand there that's trying to be the UK White Claw? Do you have like something like that?
Yes, we've got a few like hard seltzers, but they're not, and that's the thing. White Claw was such a thing that like, because I think anything American, us British people are just obsessed with, because you go into like discount stores and it's like American sweets, American this. And it's like you go down somewhere like Oxford Street in London, and it's all just American sweet shops, which we later found out is, not. Don't sue me for this, by the way, anyone. It's meant to be like money laundering and stuff like that. It's all like a front.
Oh my!
Smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors. But
that's hilarious.
But the States is somewhere I'm dying to get out to, because again, I want to ask, and it sounds like an obvious question, but is it true what they say that everything is bigger in the States? Because my brain can't comprehend it when you're like, oh, this is a normal size of Coke, and then yours is like, here's a normal size of Coke.
Like especially at fast food, it's like it's a bucket of Coke. Like if you get the large, it's like here's a plastic bucket. Like 64 ounce. And then especially they always say everything bigger in Texas. Like when you go to actually like Texas, like the roads are huge, like everything's bigger, like the signs, there's giant signs, like it is just a wild place. And I think like when we come to the UK, it's funny because I think the most surreal part, I think one of the reasons why like everything feels that way too, it's like you guys were developed hundreds of years, thousands of years ago. It's like America's still so young where it's like, man, there's so much space. So even like the neighborhoods, I mean, people make big houses and they just keep growing out and growing out. where it's like you guys like you're on an island packed in, and like even like you go someplace like London, it's like you have a tiny little house and everything, and it's just the space and everything was already built. And it's like here it's like you see the eras. It's like, oh, this city was developed in the 50s. All the houses are like ranch style 50s house, and then the 90s houses, these big like like McMansion type houses. Like it's all, we have different eras because things have developed slowly. So you get, especially when you get out to Texas, everything's huge because they just had so much space. And then we just love consuming, man. We love giant soft drinks. I mean, you get a giant big sandwich, breakfast. Subway sandwich, foot long. It's like, it's just hilarious.
It is. And if you drive out in like Wyoming or like Montana, I mean, you could go for like 4 or 5 hours without even seeing a town. So that's just the space is just open. And it's funny, I saw in an interview one time Kanye West said that he was like, people are idiots. He's like, America's for sale. He's like, half the country is uninhabited. He's like, there's literally like so much open space, and it's all like super cheap. You can buy like 5 acres for like $5,000 in Wyoming, because no one wants to live there. There's no power grid.
That's mad.
So it's pretty wild. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. And so that's awesome. I love that. That's really cool. That's really, really cool. And that answered my questions. That's fine.
Come hang out. Come hang out. Yeah.
Honestly, I think if I went, I wouldn't think I'd come back. Sorry, Rebecca, on my behalf. I don't think I'd come back. Like, it's one of those things. So obviously you guys being in the game for a long period of time, I want to know, have you guys ever met a celebrity or a music hero of yours, and have you ever been starstruck? Because I find it really interesting. Yeah. Like, and again, if you feel comfortable, do you have any tour stories of people who you've met who are super famous and things? Again, I know what stays on the tour bus and all that kind of malarkey, but is there anything you can share with our fans?
Oh man, so my biggest starstruck, I mean, so 2 people that I got insane starstruck, and actually one I met in the UK. So Jimmy World, Jim Atkins, I met him, and it was at Slam Dunk like a few years ago, and it's just like what do you say to someone? And that's always the conversation. I always talk about that. Like, I love like my favorite artists. It's like you want to tell them how much you mean to them, but it's kind of like, in a way, it's like they never will understand in a way, or it's like almost you start to say to yourself like, why even say anything? Because like you can't even let them know what it means. It's like it's unfathomable. But so I met him, and I was just like, man, like you did so much to this music scene. But my embarrassing story, I mean, it's not even that embarrassing, but it's just like, so Tom DeLonge, okay, we're playing a festival in Australia, Soundwave, way back in the day, and we were actually on the flight over to Australia and then back. And it's funny because I took Ambien on the way to Australia, and I was like messaging all these, being like, is this Tom DeLonge? Is this Tom DeLonge? Like, because the airplane had like this instant messenger. And then people kept blocking me. They're just blocking me the whole time. But then on the way back, like, so we just played the festival, and we were getting ready to go on a plane. And so I was like, I gotta talk to Tom DeLonge. Like, this is like a moment. I just want to say hi. Like, we got him in front of us. So I go up to him and I go, oh my God, like Tom DeLonge, like, dude, like, you mean the world to me. Like, I love every project you've ever been a part of. Like, you're one of the best. I was like, I'm in the Dangerous Summer. We just played Soundwave. And he was like, how was it? And I was like, it was good. And I just didn't know what to say. And then I froze, and I just started melting away. And I just like walked back and that was like the whole interaction, like and so it's like, what do you say? Like, and man, it's just like it's not like he was continuing the conversation. Like, that was his full stop. He's like, how was it? And I was like, good. And it's like, okay, shit. All right. And I got out of it. I was like, but just to meet someone like that, it's just, man, it's profound. It's cool. It's like, but like you idolize these people. They're like gods to you. They're like inhuman. And it's kind of like an unfair thing where it's like, even when people tell me like, oh man, like, you don't know how much you mean to me. And it's like, I can't fathom it, but I know how I feel about other artists. So I get it. And I get what you're saying to me. And it's just a surreal thing where it's like, someone means so much to you, and it's almost like an unfair feeling because you're really just like rooting these feelings and emotions to personal things in your life, and yeah, someone can understand that, but it's just great to just at least say hi to them and say, oh my God, I love you,
Yeah, sure. I think musically, it's kind of like that side of like what AJ was talking about. I'm terrified to talk to him because I don't know what I'm going to say to him. So I don't feel like I've really approached many of my heroes anytime, if I've ever seen them like backstage, or like I did Lollapalooza one time and I saw Eddie Vedder. I saw some of the guys from My Morning Jacket and I wanted to say something to him, but I just couldn't get myself to do it. But celebrity wise, it's really random. The NASCAR driver, Dale Earnhardt Jr., who in America is like the most famous NASCAR driver. He and he's like an announcer and does the Olympics and all this other stuff. But he randomly found our band when we were broken up, and he hit up AJ on Twitter. And nice. I'm sure AJ at first was like, no fucking way, like this isn't real. And then and then they became friends, and he started coming out to shows. We've gone on like a trip with him and stuff, and it's just really random that he likes the band enough that we've actually kind of developed like a relationship together. And no matter how many times we like talk or anything, it like trips me out that he even like likes us. It's fucking crazy. So and he made himself like very human and very chill. So then it wasn't weird at all. He's probably one of the nicest dudes I've ever met. So it doesn't, even though he's a big celebrity, he's like literally like just the chillest dude. And he loves rock and roll. He loves punk rock. He loves grunge, like all that shit. So
yeah, cool. Amazing. Yeah. So I've got one tiny one I'm just going to quickly mention because I think it's really cool. So I met Joey Jordison, the late great Joey Jordison of Slipknot. And it was one of those things where he obviously performed in Slipknot, but he also played in Murder Dolls. And when Murder Dolls came back in 2013, 14, they played in my home city of Norwich in the UK, which is in basically the arse end of nowhere. If you're anywhere other than like the UK, you have no idea where I'm talking about. But anyway, the gig was great. They were fantastic. I came out of the gig and I must have been about 17, and I just saw this figure like he was like standing with his back to me, talking to a couple of people, and I had no idea it was him. So I just walked up, tapped on the shoulder, went, "Excuse me, do you have a lighter, like a cigarette?" And he just turned, and I just froze, like someone had just ripped my soul and just went, "Whoop, I'll be having that." And I just went, and again, this is not great for an audio podcast. I just couldn't speak, and he went, "I know," and just hugged me. He you could just see him over. He went, "I know, come here," and I was like, "Oh my God!"
What a move! That's really cool that he did that. That's cool.
That was the coolest thing. That's probably my only claim to fame for being a celebrity.
That is hilarious.
But that's awesome.
Yeah, I know that. What a good response, man.
Absolutely. I reckon you could just see the sheer panic. I think would probably be the correct word.
Yeah, exactly.
And the cool part about that shit is that anybody, like it could be like a local band or like somebody that you've seen on tour once. They could be the biggest celebrity in your life. It doesn't matter who's in the news and all that. So it's awesome that like somebody can mean that much to somebody, no matter what level they're at, which is really cool. Like a lot of us, we could give two shits like who's in the news, but if it's somebody that was your hero as a kid growing up, then that's that interaction. So that was awesome. And yeah, killer response on his end.
Absolutely. So gentlemen, I know it's early for you guys currently at the moment. You've been gracious enough to give me sort of your time and things first thing on your, what day is it? If you're going Wednesday morning? I forgot what day we are here in the UK.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. There we go. It's very confusing in podcast land. So I kind of want to ask a couple more questions and then we'll sort of wrap things up for you guys. But so the album is out now. Everyone can listen to it, and I highly recommend they do after this podcast. For those of you who are obviously listening to this podcast right now and haven't heard it yet, how could you describe the differences between the last record and this record, kind of in your own words? And again, it's not going to be a long thing or anything like that, just however you feel.
Yeah, man, I think I think we've slowly been telling the story, and each album has been a chapter, and I think this new chapter, it's just the next progression. I think we're hitting some notes that we haven't for there's a lot more grunge in this album. There's a lot more softness in this album. It's a very complex beast, this album. So I think I think it's become a wide array, and I think we're getting older, we're getting more mature, and it really shows. I think, especially lyrically, I think I found some pieces of myself that I didn't know existed. I think we all did. I think we all found great pieces of ourselves in this. So I think, it's got hardness and softness, a little bit of grunge thrown in there. I think it's beautiful. Check it out, please.
Absolutely, I recommend it to everyone. I'm telling you. Thing is, the word strict embargo is a very, very difficult word for me to understand sometimes, and I get PR emails, and I'm like, I can't tell anyone about this till this date. Okay, fair enough. But I'm allowed. It's kind of like this fucking band anyway. So that's that. But Matt, how would you find it in difference from the last record?
I think that it depends if we're going the last EP or the last full length or the last EP, but I'll just go with the EP. Like, I think the last EP that we put out was during COVID. I was having to come out to Richmond and like write together with AJ, and it was our first time kind of writing just us two because we had lost a drummer in the process. And I love that album to death, and I think that was a really cool progression, and we got some really awesome songs out of it. And we started writing in a new way where we're starting to pull keyboard parts, samples, like almost make our own little like loops and stuff with guitars and everything, and just like almost remixing our songs. So the progression to this album, now recording everything very live, very raw with our new guitar player Josh, and then Christian, our new drummer, and then doing the same kind of thing, like making demos and then kind of remixing them too. We're starting to find like what works and how we can like push our sound in a new direction without having to like actually completely change or pivot. So that's why it turned out a little bit more rock, but also like still have like hooks and stuff, because we're actually like chopping the stuff. We're like becoming, like AJ said, like more producers ourselves too. So
absolutely, I love that. So gentlemen, I ask two final questions at the end. I'll tell you the first question first to give you a chance to think about it, because generally people go, yeah, why did you ask that? So my first one is, what albums are you currently sort of listening to at the moment? What albums are you listening to? What bands are you into at the moment? Again, if you want to load up Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you may have on your devices or whatever, just throw me some bands that you're into. And then the second question is, what is the best thing about being in a band? And that would be my final question for you guys. So whichever one you want to tackle first.
Okay. Honestly, man, I have a hard time listening to music. Like, I wish I listened to more music. It's just, man, like, to me, like, music's almost like that Netflix show with way too many episodes. It's like, it's hard to keep up, sometimes. But and when I find bands, I get really excited, and I'll listen to like one album like a million times. And I think this band Susto, I really love. I put them on a lot. Ever Since I Lost My Mind is a great album. Phoebe Bridgers and The National, Kings of Leon. Those are some of the bands I really listen to. And what was the second question again?
And what's the best thing about being in a band in general? You can perceive that however you like. Just the best thing about being in a band.
Dude, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man. I mean, we love our drinks, we love our drugs,
my man,
and we love traveling. So traveling, women, drugs, and sex, or and alcohol. Yeah.
I love that. How about you, Matt?
Oh, dude, hell yeah! That was a killer answer, AJ. There you go. Agreed. So I don't know. I'm weird, even though I love playing rock music. I grew up on rock and roll, grew up on 70s shit, Zeppelin, everything. Like, I listen to a ton of instrumental music. Like, I love Explosions in the Sky, Sigur Rós, Mono, Hammock, like all those kind of bands. Even like falling asleep to, like, I grew up playing piano, so like Ludovico and Aldi, or like stuff like that. Like, just like being able to chill and relax and like zone out to like instrumental music. But it's cool because that like helps me bring a weird element to some of our stuff. And then also, like, I watched the Carter like documentary about Lil Wayne, and somebody asked him question, what do you listen to? He goes, myself. He's like, I'm making music all day, every day. He's like, because it makes sense if you make music constantly, kind of like we've really fallen into, you're psychoanalyzing like everything you do. So like you have to listen to your own shit like almost all day, every day to analyze it and to make sure that you're progressing and like, you know, getting your mix right, especially if we're producing the demos and stuff. So we listen to a lot of our own stuff, not in a conceited way at all, like just because we're trying to get it better, to make a, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sorry, I was just going to say, like, so obviously doing an audio-based, video-based platform, it's the worst thing having to listen back to the sound of my own voice. But over the time, I've kind of gotten used to it, so I can't imagine what it's like being in a band having to listen to the same guitar riff and guitar, like, because obviously you break it down into little sections, little riffs, and little bits that becomes the song. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure, genuinely. And I hope you guys have had a bit of fun as well. We're going to do the quote unquote fake goodbye. Before we do that, I'm going to throw to you guys to just basically tell the listeners of this podcast, your fans, anything you want to say. Feel free I'm going to give the floor to you to end the podcast, basically.
Cool. So we're going to be on tour in the UK, Europe, coming up September, October. Please come out. We got a little drinkers club beforehand if you want to join in on that. And then, man, we have this album. It's probably gonna be out during this podcast, but August 26th, coming home.
I'm gonna line it up.
Oh, perfect. So please listen to the songs, go on YouTube, watch the music videos, add us on Instagram, The Dangerous Summer. Find us anywhere. Just check us out and buy some shit too. Hey, check out our website, thedangeroussummer.us, and we love everyone. We love you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. And
are you there? You dropped that slightly, Matt.
Yeah, I did. So I just said thanks so much for having us on, and stoked to play for you guys as we come to the UK. So
amazing stuff, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. This has been the Nevermind Polly podcast with the Dangerous Summer and your host Matt. Me, obviously, don't know why I said it in that order. Doesn't matter. Anyway, we'll catch you next time. Yeah, stay safe. So yeah, see you soon.
All right, see you soon. All right. Bye.
Awesome.
Peace. Later, man.